This lesson is going to review how to tell if a triangle is a right triangle. So in our previous lesson, we discussed if a triangle is right, how to find a missing side length. Today we're going to start with all of the different side lengths, and we're going to decide, hey, is that enough information to decide that the triangle is a right triangle? So the converse, and this is called the converse of a Pythagorean theorem. So it says, if the equation a squared plus b squared does equal c squared is true, then the side lengths must form a right triangle. Now this is often used to determine if, in construction, if walls are square, they're at a right angle. So make sure our buildings are straight. So if I'm looking at this first triangle, I want to decide, now it sure looks like a right triangle, but I don't know for sure if it actually is. It could just be super, super close. Maybe it's 89.9 degrees. So in order to determine if it is a right triangle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to label one side A, one side B, and one side C. Now, I think this is my right angle, so I think the long and 41 is the longest side. This automatically is C. The other sides, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to label one A and one B. So I'm going to use my A squared plus B squared equals C squared formula, and I'm going to put in these numbers. So 9 squared plus 40 squared equals 41 squared. Now, I don't know if this is true. I'm going to decide if it is. So I'm going to use my calculator, and you can use the scientific calculator. Clear all. So I'm going to type in 9 squared, which is 81, and 40 squared, which is, oops, that was 400 squared. That was way too big. 40 squared, which is 1,600. So let's go back up here. So 81 plus 1,600 equals, now it should be, if I add these together, 1,681. Now if this 41 squared equals 1,681, I have a right triangle. So let's test it in our calculator and see. So clearing 41 squared. And you'll see right there I have 1,681. Hey, and they are the same, which means these lengths up here were a right, this is a right triangle. All right, coming to our next triangle. Now none of these angles look like a right triangle, so I'm not sure which one I should label A, B, and C. Remember, pictures can be deceiving, so before you just assume it's not, make sure you test it out. I'm gonna make my smallest side A, my middle size B, and my biggest side C. C, if it is a right triangle, should always be the biggest side, no matter what. So here we go. I am going to plug them into my formula. 12 squared plus 18 squared equals 24 squared. Now, I know off the top of my head that 12 squared is 144, so I'm going to just write that down. I'm going to use my calculator to find 18 squared and clear it. That is 324 equals, and now let's add these together. That gives us a grand total of 468. And I am going to determine, is 24 squared the same as 468? Let's see. So clear all. 24 squared. Oh, nope. It is 576. These are not the same. If I put a big cross out there, it's saying that they're not the same. So if these are not the same, then these lengths could not have made a right triangle. So not a right triangle. Now be sure to make sure you correctly label them as the smallest side is A, the middle side is B, and the biggest side is C, because if I put the wrong label on them, there is a chance that I could incorrectly say that one is not a right triangle when it is. So let's go ahead and look at 2 more examples. Identifying a right triangle. Can the following lengths be the lengths of a right triangle? Now, I don't even have a picture this time for me to kind of guess which side is A, B, and C. So remember, the smallest one we're going to label A, the middle one's going to be B, and the biggest one is going to be C. So 8 squared, remember my formula is A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and it has to work in that formula in order to be a right triangle. So 8 squared plus 18 squared equals 20 squared. Please don't add these together. Make sure, that's also another common mistake that we can make. Make sure you square them each. 8 times 8 is 64. 18 times 18, I believe we just calculated it for this side. 18 times 18 ended up being 324. Or you can type it in your calculator. Whoops, wrong button. 324. I almost forgot. Equals 400. We did that on a similar problem. 20 times 20 is 400, and you can test that in your calculator. If I add them together, I get a grand total of 388 equals, now 20 squared was 400. Are these the same? No, they are not. So this is not a right triangle. And finally, we have our last example. Remember to label my smallest side as A. Now don't go in order. If you label it A, B, C, you are going to get the incorrect answer. I made this example up so I know this is going to be a right triangle, but if you label the biggest side as B, it's going to trick you maybe into thinking that it's not a right triangle. So make sure you label it A, longest side is C, middle side is B. So 5 squared, so that's A squared, plus B squared, 12 squared equals 13 squared. Let's see what we get. 25 plus 144 equals 169. And I knew these all offhand, but again, you can type them into your calculator. So if I add the left side together to see if it does give me that 169, that's my goal. That's my right triangle. I do see that I get 169. Equals 169. Since they are equal, my formula worked, and I can say, hey, yep, this is a right triangle. If you have any questions, please reach out to your teacher.